Hey guys, what's up? Stock Retail coming back to you on Thursday, August 24th. A lot going on. The eve before APE converts to AMC, the day that AMC reverse split. I'll just be honest, frustrating price action. We're all trying to make sense of that. We're going to talk about that today. My commitment to you guys and to myself is to be pretty transparent. So I'm just going to be real of what I'm seeing, how I feel about it, what I think is going on, and what's next. Kind of like we always do on this channel. It's always been a no trust me bros channel. It's also a let's be real about things channel. But I want to kind of say two things that I was thinking about just before I just hopped on here to kind of talk. And then I'll tell you what we're going to talk about today. Just two little notes I made for myself that I want to just say to you. And the first is somewhere between hopium and despair lies reality. You're going to have a lot of channels out there today spewing anger and frustration and despair. And then you're going to have a lot of channels out there saying, MOAS tomorrow. Always cracks me up when I get a couple trolls here and there, usually about once a week, that say, hey, you said we were going to MOAS this day or whatever. I've never once said MOAS. If you've been around me, I always say no dates, no prices. Yes, I believe in the squeeze. Yes, I'm here for it, but I will not name a date or a price. So, trolls, take note. You're not going to be able to hit me with that one. So, somewhere between hopium and despair lies reality. We're going to be real here today. I'm not going to give you hopium or despair. I'm going to just give you my point of view. The other thing that I wrote down for myself, another kind of between statement, somewhere between rage and fake joy lies courage. Yeah, I can't be joyful about the price action the last few days. I'm as frustrated as you are, so I'm not going to come on here and pretend. But I'm also not going to just start screaming and losing control and getting unhinged. I'm even seeing some, what I'm going to have to say are so called apes talking about boycotts and different things. Heck no. My my stance has always been I will run through the finish line. I will never quit. That comes from having run distance in college, I guess, and doing a lot of trail running. I'm just a guy who's going to go through the finish line. Um, so let me say that again. Somewhere between rage and fake joy lies courage. We're going to have to find our courage right now. That's where we are. And so let's just talk about, DD for me helps a lot. So let's go through some of what I'm seeing. So we'll talk a little bit more about the price action. We'll talk about why didn't shorts cover. Sorry, that's just a question I get a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and just address it a little bit. We'll just start addressing it. I can address it more over time, but today maybe just kind of a first click into this question I'm getting of, hey, retail, if shorts are green, why aren't they covering? We'll talk about that a bit. Okay, first, we need to talk about balance, though. There's this idea in sports. I also played basketball. My kids, in particular, one of my kids, are real good at soccer and various sports. And one of the things across most sports is balance. It's actually one of the just most underrated skills, in my opinion, is footwork and balance. And so maybe you're familiar with the story of when Kobe, on an off season, he was already Kobe. He was already, a superstar, and he wanted to continue to get better. So he said, I need to learn footwork. I coach a lot of basketball too, by the way. Sneaky, underrated, like I said, is actually footwork. All the greats, I'd put Kobe and Akeem, and I'd actually say Kevin McHale, and there's a few others I could name for sure, but I won't get into that because we're not here to have a basketball debate. But the point is, if you can get your feet in balance and get your core in balance, so that's why we're showing Simone Biles over on the right too. Uh, I guarantee her like stomach and core and abdomen are just crazy strong. You've got to have the ability to get your body in the right place, get your feet in the right place, stay on balance so that you don't get easily knocked over. That is just fundamental in almost any sport. And I'm just trying to remind you, we need to be balanced. You're going to see people unbalanced out there, and that is where Hedgie wants you, because when you get unbalanced, you get emotional. There's nothing wrong with emotions. Emotions are a part of who we are. But when you get unbalanced, you start making decisions that may not be in your own best interest. You need to be able to pause, take a breath, even literally slow your heart rate. Just chill for a minute. I promise you, you're going to make better decisions. I'm not going to tell you what those decisions should be. That's not what this channel is about. But I am telling you, I want you to make the right decision for yourself, for your family, for your future, these kinds of things. And you're not going to do that when you're unbalanced. So let's go through the rest of this discussion, keeping in mind this idea of being balanced. So a few things on price action. I just want to go through a little bit of a laundry list that I was thinking about today, exchange DMs with a couple people on this too. So this is just what was on my mind. Um, First off, if you haven't noticed, options have not been trading for a few days. One of the things that has long driven the price of AMC and frankly a lot of stocks is the options chain. So it's basically been down, kind of frozen for a few days. It is not up yet. The options are not trading. I have a feeling those are maybe up Monday. I don't really know, guys. Maybe even tomorrow. So let's see. I don't know if they're perhaps waiting for the settlement to finish or at least for the conversion to finish, which we will talk a little bit more about today. So the fact that there's no options is messing with our price action for sure. I can pretty much guarantee that. There's no settlement yet, right? We have not gotten our settlement shares. Now, I know some of you basically got assigned shares. I think I saw some of you with maybe it was Merrill Lynch or something like that. Maybe one or two apes here and there I saw on Twitter that got assigned some shares. But generally, the settlement should not have happened. You might have seen some apes even posting emails from John Merriweather of AMC's investor relations saying, hey, no, we haven't given the shares through computer share yet, the transfer agent. And so nobody should have their settlement shares yet. In theory, we should get our settlement shares on Monday. Now, some of you, of course, it will take longer. Just think through how Ape went. Some brokers took a little longer, but that will start Monday. So there's no settlement shares out there yet to trade. That's going to matter because we're saying, hey, there's no options trading. There's no settlement shares trading. A lot of us, live by this apes not leaving. I cannot tell you how many people have been hitting me up on Twitter, I'm still holding. I'm even buying more. I'm not leaving. I didn't sell a single share. I'm seeing you guys all over Twitter. Now, granted, easy to say what anybody wants to say on the internet. I understand that. But I take a lot of you at your word that you are apes not leaving. You've been buying, you've been holding. And if you're not an ape and you're listening to my channel, that's fine. You're welcome here too. But in general, that is the point of view of apes. We've done this for almost 3 years. We're not leaving now. In fact, this just makes some of us even all the more stubborn to dig in our heels. So here's the point on that. If people are not selling and people are holding and people are even buying more, then their shares are not hitting the exchanges either. There's no options on the exchanges. There's no settlement shares on the exchanges. There's no apes shares on the exchanges. There are no at the money or at the market shares yet. So you know how Adam's got this 25 million he's going to sell in this round. From time to time, I highlight that every time. He didn't say he's going to dump 25 million all at once. From time to time, they'll sell those into the market. And I also see people saying, oh, could he hand those straight to some shorts? Could he hand those straight to hedgies? No, that's the point of the at the market. Those will be sold in. None of those have happened yet. So those shares are not out there. Now let's remember too. So what I'm saying is that the float is not all that liquid if people are really holding all this and this stuff isn't out there yet. We're going to bring that back to something I talked about yesterday. It's going to matter. Now remember, we had the reverse split on AMC basically this morning. Some of us saw our brokers kind of restating things as reverse split last night. I know mine did. Sorry guys if I just cough a little. If you're new here, I had COVID a few weeks ago. Just doing great now, but this is just a little bit of a lingering cough. All right, so the reverse split happened. Now remember, if you had fractions, if things weren't divisible by 10, then there were fractions. So that basically kind of freed up shares, which I would imagine, now that's kind of the opposite of the last four that I just said in terms of no shares being out there. That creates some selling pressure, I'm sure. There's some fractional shares out there. Perhaps brokers kind of swept those out, but possibly they sold them off. Don't worry, you're getting cash for your fractions. Recall that piece of it. You're not, in theory, getting gypped. You're getting the money value of those. I saw some apes tweeting messages from their brokers. These were European apes. Actually, I really only saw one, pardon me, but I would not be surprised, obviously, if there's more than one, that basically their broker cleared out their shares and is kind of resetting their account and will put the shares back. Pretty weird behavior, but I mean, if that is potentially that person's portfolio, the shares got sold, that's a drag on price action too. That's just creating more selling. So I'm not sure. Again, that's a little bit contradictory to those first few points. The first few points I'm making is just kind of what shares are even out there to sell. Then I'm thinking, the fractions and if there's some more apes that got their kind of accounts reset, that could be potentially causing a drag on us. keep in mind too that there are ETFs that are probably rotating. What I mean by that is some ETFs will be in certain price points of stocks. There's not very many of those, but it's definitely, so I'm just, like I said, it's kind of a laundry list. These are all the things that could be out there. And that's the point of a market, is all the ins and outs should add up to price action. If ETFs were kind of rotating out of a certain price point, with AMC having reverse split and all of that, that could impact us. If the new ETFs maybe haven't rotated in and bought us, that one I'm really making up. That's a reach, so I'm just going to be real with you. I'm just kind of thinking out loud with you. Take it like that. We're kind of, sitting at the bar or sitting at coffee and just chatting. Haven't had time to do some deep DD on this today. Was very busy with work. So those are some things I'm thinking about that most of those would put a drag on our price. Of course, I talked a lot yesterday about corruption and manipulation. I absolutely believe that's going on too. Look at our chart. That is not a natural chart. You cannot convince me otherwise. Just go look at it. Like, look at the 5-day chart, and even put it as a line. Usually we look at candles when we're charting stocks. Put it as a line, and you'll really see it. So the other thing then is consider the last few days, today included, of what our percent has been off exchange. Very, very high. So you're not seeing buys and sells on lit exchange. And then what short exempts have been. I've seen a few apes tweeting that. You can go kind of find that. I'm sure it's all over Reddit as well. The short exempts, like I want to say yesterday, was maybe even like 6.5 million shares, pre-reverse split, that were short exempt. We're supposed to be on the SSR, right? We know they don't really follow that. We know that there are, I want to say Citadel has been fined, I won't name a number, but it's just a ton of times for mismarking shorts as longs. And then the other thing is this idea of short exempts. We should not see very many of those. When you see 6.5 million in a day, that's insane. So they're shorting on off exchange. They're also using short exempts. They're marking shorts as longs. There's a whole lot of stuff happening to us. And I talked about wash sales yesterday, which we'll talk a little bit about. So here's the point. If you're not selling, these settlement shares aren't out there, the at-the-money shares aren't out there, we're all kind of holding and waiting. What shares are out there selling? Like, what actual shares are on lit exchanges? We're seeing a whole lot in dark pools. I talked yesterday about wash sales, and that you can go find a video of Gary Gensler when he was a professor at MIT talking about that and how you can manipulate markets and effectively create liquidity. So it's my point of view that I'm not sure we're seeing a whole lot other than wash sales, because I don't really know where there are millions of shares coming out to exchange hands. I think we've traded the float like 5 times over in the last, I don't know, week or something like that. I saw some stat like that. Don't quote me on that. I just recall seeing something today and I didn't write it down. So if that many shares are trading, but we're all holding, I can tell you right now, I have no problem saying here, because I would let the government fact check me, I don't care. I have not sold any shares, as all of this has been going on either. I'm holding mine too. So if I am and you are and a lot of other people I know are, I don't know what shares are out there to sell and to create this kind of volume, which is why I talked a little bit more about wash sales yesterday. And borrowing shares, of course, we know that's happening, but that's borrow to short, right? That's not people selling. So this price action is basically just a bunch of shorting, dark pool activity, and wash sales, in my opinion. I can't completely prove that, so you've got to decide whether my speculation is at all accurate. But just, let's all be digging in, and maybe I'll share harder DD in coming days. Okay, I get this question all the time. Why don't shorts cover? So again, I'm saying, with what shares? We're not selling our shares. So what shares are they going to use to cover? And here's the thing too. Remember, so second point, and this is just generally my answer when I get asked this question. Basically, again, reminder, the question is, hey, retail, if shorts are so green, why aren't they covering? And couldn't they just do that and be done with it? Well, remember that you've got to buy to close. That requires capital. That requires actual money to go buy those shares to close your position. When you short, you sell to open, you buy to close, which is one of the reasons I hate it. It's creating a sale. People try to argue, well, yeah, but there's a buyer on the other side of that transaction. There's plenty of academic research that basically says a lot of shorting absolutely drives the price of a stock, which is why we get ladder attacked. and why you have something called a bear raid and all these kinds of things. All right, so if you're a short, you've got to buy to close. You've got to come up with the capital for that. We're in an environment with high interest rates. A lot of these shorts are shorting on margin, have borrowed shares, all of those kinds of things. They've one got to have the liquidity, and two got to actually just find that capital. I guess that's really the same thing. Um, but good luck going and finding all that, especially when there's like 200 million shares on loan. Now remember too, here's the other thing. It's not like they just close in one big action and all say 200 million shares on loan could be kind of put back. I suppose that's not the short position. The short position is something like 28% these days of AMC, maybe around 9% of APE. But just think about how many millions of shares that is. You don't just close them all at the current price and wash your hands and you're done. That's not how it works. So imagine having a smaller short of like, say you had 10,000 shares short. Well, what happens after you close 100 of those? What about 1,000? What about 5,000? You're running the price up as you close those out. Now picture shorts closing tens of millions, and you're talking about this across a lot of shorts. That's not going to go real well for them. That's the whole point. It's going to take some real choreography for shorts to exit their position. And remember that some of us believe they've shorted more than should even exist. So we're talking crazy numbers out there. What's more, they've buried all kinds of things in FTDs and credit default swaps and options chains. We're not just talking about the shorts that are getting, oh, by the way, self-reported. If you didn't know, short positions are self-reported. So, how much do you trust these guys? So that's the idea of a squeeze. Think about how much choreography it's going to take for them to close out their positions, find the money to do that, and do it in a way that doesn't spike the price like crazy. Good luck, shorts. Have fun with that. Okay, just a reminder from yesterday, and I've added a couple to this that I kind of had spaced out a little bit that I should have had on here. We have been spotting all of these types of manipulation and fraud and corruption for years. Many of these with actual documented court cases. Go look up Archegos, go look up Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. And I just told you how many times Citadel, well, I didn't tell you the number, but how insanely many times Citadel has been fined for marking shorts as longs, which I don't even have on this list actually. Oh yes, I do at the bottom. Those are the things I added. So the two things I added, so the tokens, just think FTX, Binance, all these AMC wrapped tokens, quadrillions of AMC tokens with FTX. Remember that when FTX went down, that's the first time our cost to borrow spiked to like 900. Then when Gary went after Binance, there were some tokens there for us as well. That's when we spiked to 1,000. Pretty clearly related to me. And I also have DD, I've posted on Reddit before about tokens and how cohorts tried to use those against us, all of that, right? So I'm not going to cover all that now, but here's the point. This whole laundry list, pay for order flow, FTDs, high frequency trading and wash sales that I talked about yesterday, spoofing, ladder attacks, naked shorts, shorting ETFs, short and distort, internalization, dark pools, algorithmic trading, options manipulation, tokens, short exempt, and short marked as long. All of these are fraudulent and manipulation, and all of them are happening. Internalization, by the way, implies also parking orders. So where they kind of hold buys from going to the exchange and then they dump sells on the exchange. We believe that happens too. I want you to name a single one of these things that AMC does. I want you to name a single one of these things that AMC does or controls or creates or has power over. Now I want you to look at this list and think, what does Wall Street do from this list? And if I was to start putting like, I don't know, green check marks or like red X's or I don't know, little faces of death or something that says, hey, this is bad. Every single one of these lines is created by, managed by, executed by, owned by Wall Street. Every single one of these. Now let's get balanced for a second. Let's go back to that idea of Kobe and Akeem and Simone Biles. Let's balance ourselves for just a minute. And now let's remind ourselves those two things I said. Somewhere between hopium and despair lies reality. Somewhere between rage and fake joy lies courage. I'm going to be balanced for a second, and I'm going to look at these. And I'm going to picture, name a Wall Street executive that you are feeling is corrupt. Okay? Imagine a picture of them on here. Now picture Adam Aaron. And I look at this list, and I want to point a finger. Why in the world would I point a finger at the person who has no control over all this stuff? Please question the accounts out there that are trying to get you in despair and rage. Definitely question the hopium accounts and the fake joy accounts too. Okay? We're going to find balance in the middle. You know, I'm not going to tell you MOAS tomorrow, and I'm not going to tell you this price action is fun. But I'm also not going to be screaming at Adam Aaron or trying to tell you that he's on the side of all these guys. That's insane. Look at all of these things. These are the things we're up against. So let's fight the right enemy. And the enemy is not ourselves. And so anybody out there talking boycotts and whatever, man, that's an instant block for me. You never fight against your own investment. That's insane. So that tells me either I'm talking to an insane person or I'm talking to someone who's lying to me and they don't own AMC. You don't attack your own investment. Please name for me a single investment that you have ever owned that you have also attacked while you owned that investment. No one does that. I think I've said enough about that. So here's the point. I worked in business a lot. I told you yesterday a little bit about my background. There's a notion called, or there's a field of management called lean management. Maybe you've heard of it called Six Sigma, or something else called total quality management. These are all kind of pieces of some very similar thinking. In lean management, there's a concept of always go to the root cause. Maybe you've heard of something called the 5 whys. There's different things like this where you just keep clicking deeper and deeper and deeper and ask, well, why does that happen? Well, why does that happen? Well, why does that happen? Like you just keep clicking lower until you can get to the root cause of something. Here's my point. If we look at this list of all the cheating that's going on against us and everything we're up against, and then we address the person who's not creating it, we're not dealing with the root cause. I'm going to be balanced. I'm going to get my feet set. I'm not getting knocked over by lies and influence, sentiment influencing, that influences me to try to trick me into giving up or being mad at the wrong people. If there's someone trying to make my company more successful on a stock that I own, I'm going to support them, which is why I support Adam. No, that's not fanboying. That's rooting for my own stock that I care about. I want this company successful. I want to end the short thesis, and a profitable company will end the short thesis. Meanwhile, I also want to end stock market corruption. I'm really, really sick of it, and that's okay to say, right? We're between rage and fake joy here. I'm not going to rage on you, but I am going to say, hey, there's such a thing as righteous anger, and I am angry about fraud and manipulation, and I am tired of it, and I do want it to stop. And I do think it's time for us to stand up and be counted. But I'm going to address the root, and the root is Wall Street and regulators. In fact, I'll go through the list I think I tweeted about. Let's see if I can remember it on the fly. We've got market makers, wholesalers, internalizers, regulators, media, hedge funds, politicians. These are the people that are part of the problem. These are the people I'm going to point the finger at. I want to go after the root of who's doing this manipulation, not who's getting hit by it. Okay? So if you want to post on my channel or on my Twitter negative things about my stock, I'm not going to have a problem removing your comments. I just don't. I've been in this for almost 3 years. I understand. I'm no rookie. People like to pretend you're just a dude or just a lady, and you just have this thing to say. I see through most of the people who do that. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're just someone who's a little bit sad and frustrated by these few days, I 100% get that, and you're welcome here. But I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, or maybe better than that, I've learned how to spot who's just here to stir up trouble, and I'm not having that. All right. Let's stay balanced. Let's move on from that. Enough of that. I just ask you to think about root cause, think about being balanced, think about putting your eyes in the right direction. Okay, let's talk about the calendar. What's still ahead of us? August 25th, tomorrow, Ape converts. I'm still very excited about that, guys. I honestly am. And the thing is, too, we're in the middle of this dance or this race. There's a reason. I'm going to go way back. There's a reason I keep posting this. Today, Gran Turismo is debuting in the U.S. A little bit excited for that movie, but also I love the imagery of getting to the starting line. We're only to the starting line. This race, in my opinion, hasn't really started in terms of this new chapter of our AMC journey. We only get the conversion tomorrow. We only get the settlement next week. The options aren't even trading. We're only pulling up to the starting line, as far as I'm concerned. And, we know that fraudulent players, manipulators, don't want this company having cheap access to capital. So they're fighting. All right, so do we roll over or do we roll them over? So tomorrow, Ape converts. We get closer to getting this car moving. And, oh, by the way, go to that movie, support it. Settlement begins being delivered. I said, and options, question mark here on the August 28th. I'm just admitting to you, I don't fully know if options would actually maybe trade tomorrow. As I recall, the OCC memo really kind of said everything's got to go through and get finished for some of the settlement math on, in particular, I think it's the AMC 2s and the AMC 1s and all that. We're going to have 3 different options chains. I kind of talked about that a little bit yesterday. So I don't know, probably tomorrow, maybe Monday. You can hear that I'm guessing a little bit. I'm not totally clear myself that options will begin trading. I've told you guys here, I'm long on some calls. So I'm certainly interested and I'm watching that. I have a feeling that starts to change price action a little bit as well. End of Q3 is at the end of September. So, we've been tracking real well. I would love for us apes to continue to help deliver a positive quarter. That goes beyond just us. I've plugged a few times on Twitter. There's a group called AMC Gorillas. Check that out. The whole attempt of that is to spread positivity and energy around movies and to go beyond the ape community, right? Like if you get more people, it's basically guerrilla marketing. We're free marketing for AMC. You get more people to go to movies, we make more money. Again, I said no one ever fights against their own stock. I want to support my stock. How does our stock get supported? Spread word about the popcorn and the credit cards and the movies. Get people going. It helps yourself. It helps your own investment. So, end of Q3 is next month. Got a few good movies coming out throughout September, so that's going to be cool. I've shared my forecast a few times. Won't do that again here. And then just a thought. So Adam has not said this. This is me just kind of doing some math and some guesswork. Remember that I believe it was April when Walmart, so popcorn got rolled out at Walmart in wide distribution, 2,600 doors. And that was a 6-month exclusive. So it was either kind of maybe March-ish, April-ish. So sometime in October, I think we may hit that 6 months. And Adam's been very clear that once that 6-month exclusive is up, he's looking at, he's got, with apologies to her, I'm forgetting her name, but there's the woman who is the senior VP. She just got a promotion recently even, and she's kind of been in charge of all that. She came to us from, I think, Pepsi. Anyway, so she's been doing a great job getting that whole program out there, and I'm sure that she's in discussions, she or Adam or somebody's in discussions with other grocery chain stores. He's talked in the past about places like 7-Eleven. He full on in the earnings call even said anywhere snacks are sold. So I wouldn't be surprised if kind of around October we start seeing popcorn go even broader and we start making even more money on that. So I'm excited for that. So that's kind of what's right in front of us. Like I said, we work on staying balanced. We are in the movie industry, guys, and most of us love movies. Don't make it complicated. There were people trying to bankrupt a company with thousands of employees. Apes stepped in and stopped that and are now enjoying the fruits of having a wonderful movie industry with movies that we love and these employees that we helped, them keep their jobs. I'm not walking away now because the job's not done. Can't fool me. I'm not going to fight against my own investment. I'm going to fight for it, and I'm going to fight the corruption. So, what are you going to fight for? And I'll just ask you, which movies are you going to go see? Let's go.